This is The Balanced Dilemma. We tackle the often uniquely, but not always, female dilemma, managing life, work, family, and self. I'm Maura Carlin.
And I'm Christie Derrico. At The Balanced Dilemma, we speak with women and men to hear their balanced stories. Our guests are entrepreneurs, reinventors, creators, executives, parents, and partners, telling us what we really want to know. How the heck did they manage that? And can you have it all and all at the same time?
She left Russia at age 7, built a career in institutional finance, and then, after one very long, very sweaty postpartum night, decided to build something completely different. Our guest is Katya Eckert, founder and CEO of A DOMANI, the luxury sleepwear brand for women who run hot, whether from perimenopause, menopause, postpartum recovery, cancer treatment, or just their own internal thermostat. 3 Oprah Daily Awards, 0 fashion industry experience, and a very good reason to lose sleep. Welcome, Katya. I've been so excited to talk to you since we first met.
Thank you so much for having me.
And part of your story is not a first for us, but we always want individual perspectives. You came to the United States from Russia at the age of 7 in 1991, right at the fall of communism. Tell us about that. What do you remember from that time?
I remember a very scrappy upbringing. My parents came over with $100 in their wallet, and my dad was already here on an education exchange, and we were able to visit him for 2 weeks, and were able to stay. At the last minute, we were able to change our visa and stay, and we had a box of books, $100, and a guitar for my 16-year-old brother.
Wow. And where did you move to?
We moved to South Jersey. We lived with some host families for some time. And I remember going to Pathmark and buying dented cans and going around and getting furniture off the streets and all sorts of things where we just, kind of had to be resourceful. And within 2 years of us being here, my parents were able to purchase their own home in a super great neighborhood and great school district. My mom was working at Raytheon. My dad was an engineer. And so it was just,
The American dream.
the American dream. And that's how we came here. Yeah.
Well, one word that we've heard used for entrepreneurs over and over is the word grit. And do you feel that that experience is part of the fiber of the grit that led to you doing this cool thing you're here to talk with us about?
100%. Yeah. What is her name? Dweck. I forget what the her first
We
name
know
is.
who you
but
mean.
Yeah. I was like, wow, this is totally such an immigrant story, and I think it is a unique story for me. And then I have lots of immigrant friends, and they'll be like, we all have the same story. We all have the same kind of drive and worldview.
Yeah. And no fear because you did something amazing.
I think fear is just so out of the equation. And if you think about it too hard, you won't do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, my leader.
Okay, well, you spent your career in institutional finance
Yes.
before you started your own business. Walk us through what that career looked like and why.
So that was also a fairly accidental career, as I guess I've just been somebody that kind of has embraced opportunities as they've come out at me. And I was art history major, and then I worked at a concierge service that was started by Camilla Parker Bowles' nephew. And from there, I ended up in finance in 2009 when the economy crashed. And I initially started as an assistant, and I eventually became VP of business development. And I was cold calling hedge funds and pitching equity derivatives trades. And it had nothing to do with my training, but it had a lot to do with just managing those relationships and the grit of picking up the phone over and over again.
And that didn't scare you. I mean, that's a tough thing to do. You just figured, I'm making the call. The worst they can do is say no.
It built thick skin over time, for sure.
They actually say that cold calling is something recommended to get your skin thick and get used to rejection, because that's part of doing what you've done.
And I still have terrible calls all the time, because part of being an entrepreneur is everything is a cold call.
That's right.
And I walk out of it and I get all wound up, and I'm like, nope, it's fine. Water off a duck's back. We have to move on.
That's right.
So I gather that's one of the things that finance and luxury sleepwear have in common. What else? Are there other things that translate?
Entrepreneurship, definitely a high-end clientele and very high expectations of excellence. I think, with working in luxury hospitality, then working in really high-end finance, there is just a certain standard that is something that I hold myself to and my customers hold us to. We have an extremely low product return rate. So the average apparel return rate is like 30% and ours is sub 10%. And that speaks to how great the product is. But I think with every single piece of the business, you have to continue to hold yourself to a super high standard, and those industries really breed that.
Right. And you do touch upon product return is a huge part of the formula in retail in general. That's an unfixable dilemma.
Yep.
And so that's great that you've reduced that.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And leaving finance, was that something that you'd always figured you would do? Or was this, it happened because you were sweating?
It happened because I was sweating, but I was not upset about it.
Okay. So was it a quick realization or a slow realization?
I think finance was one of those things. As I kind of landed into that career, I never felt like my dharma was really aligned, if that makes sense. Sometimes you feel like you're really in a flow of what you're doing. Finance for me was something that I really enjoyed because I really enjoyed the intellectual stimulation of my clients and the people I worked with. It's a really fast-paced industry. Every single moment is something new, especially if a big trade is going up, et cetera. And I really, really enjoyed that. I didn't love the nitty-gritty of finance. It wasn't something that I like that really got me going. And so, I had this idea, and when I started kind of pursuing it, poking around, and it kind of took a life of its own because I was like, it lit a spark, if that makes sense.
We hear that from entrepreneurs. So people think when they hear about sweats, night sweats, they think menopause, but that wasn't what brought you to this.
No, I had the postpartum night sweats, which is something that nobody discussed. And I don't know if you experienced it with all of your children, but it's one of those things that it's like a very small amount of time that you are just kind of miserable. And it's like the baby comes, and I don't know, this is my experience. Some people are in like a very happy, blissed out newborn phase. For me, that was not the case. I did not feel like that when the baby came. I didn't feel like myself. I didn't know what was going on. My schedule was off. I was used to being like very regimented and getting up and going to work in the morning.
I think that's more common than many people admit.
Right.
Okay.
And then I just felt so miserable, and I couldn't put on anything that made me feel beautiful. And everything that I put on didn't feel good on my skin. And I was like sweating and hot and miserable. And it was one of those things that I kept trying to like order garments, pajamas, other things that would kind of fix the problem, and landing nowhere. And I would joke about it with my mom, who was alive at the time, and she had this like very light sense of humor, and she's like, ha ha ha, wait until menopause. I'm like, this is complete nonsense. Like, I just entered this night sweats phase of my life, and I still have like perimenopause 10 years, menopause, and like then she went through cancer treatment, she had night sweats through that. So there's like, it's everything, these like hormonal things that we go through, they're such a huge portion of our life.
So many questions are popping through my mind. They're firing. I can't stop them. I mean, I've read the story about Spanx and how Sarah Blakely, basically it was the material that made her product. And I'm getting the same thought here. Did you come up with a business plan? Did the material come first? Did you make the material to suit this plan? Like, walk us through what happened and how you got this product to market.
Yes. So Sarah Blakely, also another cold caller, which I think about often, right? Cold called for fax machines. But the business plan came first. And it was one of these terrifying moments of entrepreneurship, because I was like, if this doesn't exist, maybe the fabric doesn't exist. You know what I mean? Because if you don't have the right fabric, you have no product. Like, I can't just like slap a claim on it and, people will return that all day long, right? So it has to actually do the thing that you say that it's going to do. And so I didn't know anything about fabric at all, because that was not at all my background. And I started doing the thing that I do, which is get extremely curious about something and call every single person I know and ask them if they know somebody that they can put me in touch with to educate me about this thing. And so I was put in touch with the woman that invented Lycra for DuPont. And I got in touch with one of the first head designers for Spanx.
Right.
And got introduced to all these people to educate me about fiber science. And little by little, I learned what I wanted and quickly decided, because women are wearing this when they're going through hormonal issues, that it had to be a natural fiber. I didn't want any synthetics. And I knew cotton wasn't going to do it, because we know that we all sweat through cotton. It's not comfortable. So I started ordering fabrics online through fabric fairs, because it was COVID when this was all happening and I couldn't travel to a single fair. And so I started reaching out to fabric mills and asking for samples and getting these fabrics. And it's not as easy as it sounds, because these mills are very protective of their IP, and they will not send it to you unless you're a real legitimate business,
wholesaler, or
and
person
you're
in the
willing
market
to make huge order quantities happen, because the garment business is a very high volume business.
Did you find that a fabric existed, or did you have to have someone create it? Because I'm thinking about, Christie, the women who created the Skura sponges. They actually had to find someone who would fabricate a new material that would meet their requirements.
I wound up using an existing fabric. And I wound up for my first collection, we wound up going with a fabric engineer called Pyrotex, and they specialized in making natural fiber materials. So this one is made out of trees, and our fabrics are made out of trees, but they make things out of seaweed and banana peels and orange peels and various things, because all of these materials have skin benefits.
So are there other products that are made with this material? I'm just thinking, I ran for many years, and people don't realize that's another thing, that the actual material can make your running experience, like you could save your feet with the proper socks.
Massively.
So do they use this for other things?
So there are other brands that use this particular material for ready-to-wear garments, but in general, everything with kind of like mills and all of this IP, none of this is protected, right? So very few things in the apparel industry are patented. Generally, anybody can use anything for whatever it is, but just like every cotton t-shirt you own is very different.
Right.
It really comes
down.
down.
That is totally true. The perfect white t-shirt. Now, do you have to wash this a special way?
Just throw it in the washing machine.
Great.
So what is thermoregulating? Because that's one of the properties of the material. And after this, I'm going to show some of your product, because it's exciting.
Great. Thermoregulating just means to keep your body temperature at the right body temperature for you throughout the night. So the thing that actually wakes you up from a night sweat is not the sweat. You can sweat. That won't wake you up. It's the chill. So if your fabric is not able to actually move the moisture and breathe and evaporate it as quickly as you are sweating, it will become wet and it will live on your skin and wake you up. That's what wakes you up.
So what's the difference between that and moisture wicking?
Right. This has moisture wicking is something that's a claim property that's used in polyester a lot. Polyester doesn't like moisture. Right? So it's hydrophobic. These fibers are hydrophilic. So meaning if you have a plastic raincoat, right, that will repel moisture from it. But it will also keep you very hot.
It will keep it in the raincoat.
Right.
Exactly.
Environment.
Exactly. Exactly. So if you have a lot of cooling fabrics out there that you'll see are at a minimum 30% polyester, 60% polyester. And what is that doing to you? It'll keep the garment dry, but that'll keep all of the moisture and the bacteria on your skin.
But what you're so ahead of, sorry, Maura, I think everyone's waking up to the fact that we have way too much synthetics around us in every single thing we're doing. And all of a sudden, like a snap, everyone's like, this thing I'm sitting on, this thing I'm exercising on, this thing I'm drinking from. So you were ahead of the curve with that.
Yeah.
Is there how do I say this? Odor reducing aspect of this fabric.
Yes. I say it right out. It's anti-stink. Nobody likes to wake up stinky. It just is not very it's I feel like there's something that happens in your 40s where your hormones change and you just are like, this is not pleasant, this body experience. And these fibers are, you have to think they're coming from wood. So they have the same properties that a forest has, right? A forest will it'll have rain, and the trees are naturally antimicrobial, so they're protective of themselves and their environment, and they quickly dry. All of that is in the fiber. None of that is ever going to wash out. We don't use a chemical coating on this.
That was another question I had,
Yeah.
because things that are fire retardant, like
Exactly.
Let me show it.
Yeah.
children's wear, you
Mhm.
have to reapply it after so many washes.
Exactly.
So let me hold this up because this is a nightgown. I can't describe how it feels, but it is quite soft.
Close to the mic, Maura,
Oh.
while you
Well,
demonstrate.
Well, I just want to hold it up. I'll
Love
stay
it.
close to the mic so that we can see it on camera. I don't know how to describe it. Have you felt it yet,
I did.
Christy?
It's kind of thicker than I expected.
Yeah,
Right.
it
So and
is.
it doesn't make you warm because I would have thought that the thickness of the fabric might feel warmer.
You would think that.
Yes.
It's very counterintuitive, the weight of that. We also have a super feather light collection as well. I just
Oh.
brought this one. This was our original collection, our signature pieces. The properties are the same because both of them are tree-based fibers. It's real. It'll be a shocking experience once you sleep in it.
Well, we're going to find out
You'll
tonight.
be like, I'm peeling this off. I'm putting it on right away.
I
Commuting home
just
in it.
turned my air conditioning on in my house, and I am ready to try this. This
So you've
sounds great.
created the product. Well,
Yes.
actually, you came up with the idea of the product. You found a fabric. Did
Yep.
you design the actual?
Yep, I found a designer.
Okay.
We worked on it. The design process was super interesting to me because as I was reconsidering the fabric because all of the fabric on the market I was kind of finding lacking and not luxury. Like there was a lot of you could find things at like a Target price point, you could find things at like a $600 price point, but like none of it was like function and luxury together. So that was one piece, was the fabric. The second piece was the design. When you think about when you're sleeping hot and you think about the normal construction of pajamas, what do we think of when we think of pajamas? Collars, pocket squares,
Yeah.
buttons.
I kind of never understood that.
Same. I was like, wait, hold on a second. If I'm going to design these things, why would I design them like that? I don't want to sleep in a scarf. That collar is like a scarf situation to me, right? And those buttons always pop open, and I don't need to keep business cards on me while I sleep. I don't need a pocket square.
Right.
You know what I mean? I never like those drawstrings because I feel like it's like the type of thing that's like between you and using the bathroom in the middle of the night is like fumbling with this drawstring.
Right.
Or like a side seam that's like digging into you while you sleep. I was trying to eliminate all of the friction from the experience, not just the temperature, but also the design. So like all of our seams are really smooth. So like you'll see one of the things that I get about the feedback that I get about this particular nightgown or any of our nightgowns is like, wow, nightgowns always like ride up to my waist and I feel like I'm, caught up in them. And it's like this, you don't have the same experience with this fabric.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the thread, what type of thread do you use to sew the fabric? The same material?
So this is lyocell. The dress is made out of lyocell, which is a super sustainable fiber. We recycle 99.9% of the water and solvents. The solvents are skin friendly, they're healthy, and the fabric, and this is, I will tell you anecdotally, but also based in my research. So it was super important to me that when I was creating the product, that it was very healthy for the body and for the skin because of who was wearing it, as I said before. Right after I launched the company, my mom got re-diagnosed with breast cancer. She died within 6 months of me having like basically this company, and she wore A DOMANI the entire time. And she didn't have to wear it. She could have worn whatever she wanted. Obviously, we all just wanted her to be comfortable. This is the only thing that felt good on her skin. She later wound up wearing it in hospice, and her skin barrier stayed intact where the fabric touched her.
Wow.
And that's because if you see these fibers on a microscopic level, they are so smooth. They are so much smoother than a cotton fiber or any other fiber. They wash beautifully. They don't break down. Like this dress will look brand new after 50 washes.
Awesome. So I have to ask, how many prototypes
Oh my gosh. Well,
or how long did it take?
it took a really long time. It took a lot longer than I thought. I was like, yeah, I'm going to start this business and it's going to be launched within 6 months. No, it took 2 years. And it was because I was trying to get the fabric right. It took 650 different types of fabric samples to get it right. And like I said, you could have 55 different cotton t-shirts. They all feel different. I was like, okay, it's going to be Tencel, Modal, Lyocell, definitely in that range. But even in that, there's just thousands of different materials.
And then you had
variations.
trademarks. Did you go through as many as Sarah Blakely?
Oh no, I couldn't. I couldn't trademark. I trademarked the brand name, but you can't trademark the fabric.
And
No.
where's your product manufactured?
Everything is in Portugal. So we started. I knew that the fabric was going to come from Portugal because once I decided on this particular fiber, the best mills are in Portugal for these natural fibers. And then I got hooked up with an amazing family-run factory in Mexico, and I was putting bolts of fabric on container ships and having them come into Mexico and making the product in Mexico. And I was working with this lovely family-run factory in Mexico City. And then with our current relationship with Mexico, I wanted to de-risk that part of my business. So I moved all of production to Portugal, and it's been wonderful. I now have everything cut and sewn in an amazing woman-run factory that's 20 minutes from my mill. And so they're all next door to each other. It's really just a beautiful production. And she sews for a lot of high-end designers that you know.
And what about money? Fully self-funded?
It has been fully self-funded so far, yes. But we are opening our first round to outside investors now. So,
Oh, that's exciting.
Yes.
So you're out there
Fundraising.
talking to investors.
Yep.
And that's a tough
Shark
thing to
Tank,
do.
going on Shark Tank.
But how did you build awareness? I mean, you have been noted by Oprah and Katie Couric and a whole lot of other places. How'd you get the word out?
It's a great question. So
Because that's a lot of mouths to have to get through.
Truly, the business has really grown on word of mouth from the very beginning. When I first launched, just from an email, our first 2 months of business, we did $30,000 off of an email, a friends and family email. Everybody bought it and told all their friends, and they bought it. So that was amazing. And then the business really kind of went into emergency brake mode while my mom was sick. 8 weeks after my mom died, I had a baby. So it was really entrepreneurship. I was being very tested, and you get tested as an entrepreneur every day. I got introduced. One of the things that I was doing was I was sending the product to various doctors on Instagram because the menopause conversation was very nascent at that time. And one of the doctors I sent it to was Dr. Jessica Shepard. And I sent it to her in January of 2024. And in January of 2025, I get a DM from her on Instagram while I'm sitting at the Greenwich train station to pick up my husband and said, "Look where I got you printed." And it's Oprah Daily Menopause Top product.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Just a solid friend, citizen in that arena. That's great.
Truly. Yeah. And
that moment, just tell us the reaction and what you did.
Oh my God, I was
screaming. That's amazing.
Screaming. And I called my best friend who works in news, and she's worked in news for 20 years. And she's screaming, and she's in the newsroom screaming. And she's hangs up the phone with me and then basically calls me back. And she's like, what do you think about being on CBS Mornings? And I was like, what? And she's like, I just pitched you to Gayle King's executive producer. And then 2 weeks later, I was on CBS and we sold out.
Right. I was going to ask you about that because that is the risk with these viral moments, whether your inventory, can keep up with the public's desire for your product.
Were you able to?
We did $100,000 of business that day. So we fulfilled a lot of business, and then it took some time to get a restock, and we had good momentum last year. So now I think, that's part of my journey now is just building that repeatable momentum with proper funding.
Right. You're not doing this alone. You have a partner, a husband, and you have 2 children. And one of the most interesting things is that both you and your husband have startups.
Yes.
Talk about the stress of that, not having a salaried income, something like that, yes. And having 2 little children at the same time.
It's a lot. It's really a lot. My husband is working on getting a private equity fund off the ground and clean energy infrastructure. And so he's raising hundreds of millions of dollars. So that's a different type of environment for him. But he is I will say, like, I'm just lucky. Like, he is truly an amazing partner. He's so encouraging, and I call him also, like, the most productive man in the world. Like, just watching him work, like, is so motivating to me because it's really like I don't know. I don't know how to call it, but it's an art. Like, the way that he works is really an art, and we're really good at co-parenting.
So
Um,
describe what a typical
Yeah.
week is and how who does what and when, because
yeah.
people want to know how you
Yeah.
balance that.
So my husband wakes up earlier than I do. Sometimes he's up as early as like 4:30. Oftentimes at around 4:30, my baby boy, I have a 2.5-year-old boy, will start crying and want to come into our bed. And so he'll lay in our bed for like, 30 minutes. And then my husband will get up with him and he'll take him downstairs and start watching his movies and whatever. And he'll start working while he's up. And then I'll get up at like 7 and my daughter will get up at around the same time. And I get the kids dressed and he packs all the lunches. And then he takes my son to daycare and I walk with my daughter to school. We live like a block and a half away from school, which is so nice because I was, of all of the different daytime ice cream socials and gym classes and Spanish lessons.
Was
you
that
have to
intentional?
attend.
Was that a chosen location
No,
for that?
no.
Geography is
Because,
something
I mean,
people
look,
don't think about with their homes and work, and it really can make the sustainability much
Truly,
much more
truly.
successful.
And then we have our daughter in an after-school program at the YMCA, and without it, I literally would not be able to function. I didn't do it in the very beginning when she went to kindergarten, and halfway through the year I did it, and I was like, how was I working
And
prior
she's
to
loving
that?
it, and she's well
loving
cared for,
it.
right.
Yeah. So she's there until 6, and my son is at daycare until 6, and we have a full work day. The hardest part, I will say, is just like keeping house. Like the two of us do a really good job together. Like my husband does all the laundry and all the dishes, and I will do like putting the laundry away and, making the beds when I get to them. And, like we divide the duties well. We did at one point have somebody that I lost that came and like picked up after the kids every day, and that was like life-changing. I would love to have somebody back in my house again. She went to another family to work full-time, but like yeah, it's
Those
so
little
hard
things
to
really
do.
help.
Yeah, it
Now, do you
really
work out
does.
of the home or do you go to an office?
We both work out of the house. Yeah.
So what happens when you get the emergency call from school?
Yeah.
Who handles it and who gets the call in the first place?
I get the call. It's always me, but we just chat. We have like a quick meeting inside the house. It's not formal, but I'm like I have this on the calendar. I need you to. We've never had a situation where we've had like a conflict around it. Whoever has the flexibility in their schedule at that moment can go and pick up the kid. And I will say, as the kids have gotten a little bit older, even at 2.5 is different than 1.5. Like, you have a TV stand-in babysitter, you just do, and you plop them in front of the TV for a couple hours while you finish working, and
Do you
that is
have
what it is.
calendar meetings or money meeting, any kind of meetings where you sit down and you plan how things are going to work?
We don't have any formal meetings that way, but we
Shared calendar?
We invite each other to calendar events, and my husband is actually very good at that. He'll go through the PTA email and he'll just throw a whole bunch of things on my calendar. He does take so much of that mental load, and I truly wouldn't be able to do all of it if he didn't carry so much of it.
So moving from the shift from, a job in finance to this entrepreneurial endeavor, was there something that you had to let go of professionally or personally that was harder than you expected?
Perfectionism. And also, I think the hardest thing from moving from a corporate environment to an entrepreneurial environment is you go into the corporate environment and you don't take into consideration how much mentorship is built in. Right? You have people to ask something of all the time. You have somebody to bounce an email off of and get a second eye on something. And you learn by osmosis in an office with other people that are doing the thing. And when you become an entrepreneur, especially in the very beginning, you don't have a schedule. What is your schedule? How are you going to learn? How are you going to stimulate yourself? Who's going to be in your network? And there's so many different things that you just don't know, and you don't know what you don't know, and you don't even know where to ask. So, I think with AI, things have changed so much because Claude can be like another person in the room, truly.
So we've discussed, yes.
And thank God for that. I mean, like, I could have probably spent half the money I invested into the company if I had Claude.
Did it result in lower staff than you would have needed had you done this in a different time?
Definitely. Absolutely. Absolutely. I would have learned, and you can get businesses just up and running so much faster now and for fewer dollars. And I would have invested so much in female entrepreneurial networks
and probably R&D that helps
exactly
to have a little research assistant.
Absolutely. I wouldn't have had to call so many people.
What do you know now that you'd wish you'd known before starting the business?
It's going to cost you more than you think it is.
Totally.
It probably also took longer.
And it takes longer. Everything takes longer. Everything takes longer than you think it is. You think it's going to take you 30 seconds to write that email. It's going to take you 3 hours. Like, everything takes longer.
And now, has your entire parenting journey been as an entrepreneur, or were you a parent when you were still working in finance?
I would just call it everything has been as an entrepreneur at this point, because I had a 5-month maternity leave and then I went back basically part-time, and then COVID hit. And so I was still working corporate, but I was working from home, and my daughter was at home with me. So I really got to watch her first
So in
year.
your opinion, is being a parent as an entrepreneur easier or harder than it would have been?
Easier. Absolutely easier. Definitely. Because you answer to yourself. You don't have to, I feel like there's so much brain power, especially for women, to constantly justify their experience in their home life to their boss and work it. Even like, I had the most understanding boss ever, but still.
What do you mean by that? You had to justify your home life.
Like, I have to take my kid to the doctor. My kid has to
The
be
reason
picked
for
up.
needing
yeah,
off.
like
Okay, I
you're
have to ask,
constantly-
did you tell the truth about where you were going and why?
No, I've almost forgotten that narrative. I've confessed that I am a repeat offender in lying about where I'm going, and it really only about personal family things. I mean, that's the truth. I don't want to admit. I think I've gotten it.
You've gotten better.
Yes, because
Yes.
I'm more wiser and more professionally stable, and I don't need to lie.
Yeah.
But in areas where it might be in a male-centric, or it might be looked down upon that I'm going to the school play,
Yeah.
I would say it was a doctor's appointment. So do you? Yeah,
I don't know. I actually don't recall, but I wouldn't be shocked if, I pushed it one way or another.
Well, the world has changed.
It
I mean,
has.
men take paternity leave now. This didn't exist when I
Totally.
was a young mother.
Yeah, for sure.
So what's next for your company? Where do you see it going?
So I've had a lot of requests from men's. Tons. Apparently there are lots of sweaty guys there that want pajamas.
I bet. And kids, I'm thinking,
and
too.
kids, and just ready to wear garments. I think, like you were saying, women are, just people in general, kind of fed up with all of the plastic that's in our clothes, and they want natural garments, and hot flashes don't
And
stop at night.
Sarah Blakely has stepped up to that as well. Her product design, she went to the shoes. I don't know how that's doing, but I've noticed she's made outfits, and they're really easy. You throw it on. I can wear it like high or low.
Yeah.
And I think she's giving women what they want. And I kind of see a similar design in your sleepwear.
I agree.
Pretty, easy,
Yeah.
comfortable, good for us,
Yeah.
So I
Good
think
for the environment.
And good for
I
the
think so.
environment. Yeah.
So for a woman who's in the exhaustion stage right now, in the sweaty stage, whether it's perimenopause, menopause, postpartum,
All the
cancer
things.
treatment, whatever, what do you want her to hear, and why you're so committed to her?
I get customers that write to me and write like literal handwritten cards to me where they tell me, I took your pajamas with me to the hospital because they made me feel safe. I wore these when my mother died because I had crazy hot flashes and I couldn't sleep in my normal cotton PJs. I wore these through my cancer treatment. I wore these, like, people write to me and they connect the garments with these very poignant moments. And they're wonderful all the time. Whether you have hot flashes or not, they just feel really beautiful on the skin and they're good for the skin. But to create a product that has so much meaning for people, and rest is meaningful, right? Like, rest is
Not just
really
meaningful, it's important.
important. It changes your ability to function during the day. It's fundamental to your health and mental well-being. And to create a product that is very truly built around that, like, that's why I do it.
That's a great
that's
central
what keeps
theme.
me going.
We do have to talk
I know.
balance. First, what does balance mean to you at this time of your life with 2 entrepreneurs in the house, 2 little kids, 2 businesses? Tell us.
So I think I might have written to you about this, but I'm allergic to the word. I call it triage.
Fair.
And there's certain times where it can't wait. Like I have to reply to a customer, I have to reply to a vendor, I have to reply to whatever. And there are times where my kid is sick or, my husband needs me because he has a super important meeting and I have to step in. So it's kind of like we try to plan it as much as we can. And at the same time, life takes over, right? Like when my mom got sick, that wasn't part of my business plan.
No.
And I was her medical proxy. Like when we moved to America, I was 7 and I kind of grew up as the American kid. My brother was 16, right? So I really learned and internalized the way that like the healthcare system here functions. And so by default, I was the daughter and like the Americanized kid. And so all of that medical care came to me and the business just had to kind of get put aside. And it is also it's important to me. It is my baby. It's the thing that I've invested all of my money into. And yet,
I know the next question Maura wants to ask, but I do want to say I listen to a lot of productivity hacks. And the big rub I have is many of them are giving advice from men for men. And they're describing, well, how do you make your trip perfect? What coffee do you take with you? What you've described is being a flexible parent, a flexible woman. If I had to live my life only with a certain regimen,
I don't think that you're
really wouldn't
sleeping
work.
on the roof and spending the first 2 hours of the morning meditating by yourself.
not taking calls.
I would love to know who's actually doing these things. Like
who
who's
knows?
getting up at a 4 a.m. cold plunge and writing.
Well, I think your joy is written on your face and it's part of your story here. But
We have to ask. And you're still early in this journey, but do you think you can have it all and all at the same time?
Absolutely not.
right.
Definitely not all at the same time. I think you can have it in bits. And one of my best friends, Allegra Cohen, she calls herself a chief joy officer, and she has a TED talk and like all these like really great things. And she says she calls it micro joys. So it's like building a muscle. Like every single moment of your day, you have to look for the joy in that moment and mark it. And if you can take a second and just mark it, then that is having it all in a way in that moment, right? Like sometimes I'm sitting there and I'm like overwhelmed, but I'm programming Claude and I'm like, I'm actually kind of having fun with this. And I'm like, okay, there it is. There's a little micro joy.
Tell our viewers how they can find you and these wonderful products, which Christy and I, I'm sure we're going to be wearing
Absolutely.
tonight.
I know the next one. I'm going to try this one, but I know the next one I want. You told me about it. So go ahead.
So at A DOMANI Sleep on Instagram and all of the social media channels, and at www.adomanisleep.com online. Please follow us and shop.
So glad to have you.
It was
I hope
so
your
great
stories
so
to
of
much.
get to do this. So
inspiration.
exciting.
This was great.
Thank you so much. We wish you the
Thank you so
best and
much. I
really
so
can't wait to
appreciate
try
it.
this.
Can't wait. Please follow us, listen to us, and rate us on our platforms, Spotify, Apple, and our website, thebalanceddilemma.com, where you can also subscribe to our newsletter and email us your suggestions. There's no cost, but it means a lot to us.